part of the process. Your brain just has to process and get used to the fact that that person's not there. And with my brother's death, after we came back from his funeral, it was very close to Christmas time with my brother's death. After we came back from, I came back to college in Valdosta, and I went to some friend's house, and they brought over, back then it was VHS tapes, brought over a bunch of Christian VHS tapes for us to look at to try to cheer me up. And while we were looking at these VHS tapes, one was a Christian group called New Song, and it was recorded in Atlanta. And while I was watching this was maybe 2 days after his funeral, I was watching this video. They panned through the crowd, and my brother and his best friend were in the crowd, and they zoomed in on him. And this was the brother, my brother and his best friend. His best friend did the eulogy at his funeral just a few days ago. So I just freaked out. I mean, absolutely. I know they thought I'd lost my mind. I started screaming, and I ran up to the TV and said, rewind it, rewind it, rewind it. And I pointed out who they were. And from that point forward, I started having this recurring dream that my brother really wasn't dead. And for some reason in my mind, he was always a loser. He was like in some produce aisle. He was working in the produce department of some little crappy, grocery store or something. And I would just stumble upon him one day and go, "Why did you do this to us? Why have you done this to us?" All this, and that went on for years. I mean, and it's been 21 years, I guess, since his death, but probably as soon as maybe 3-4 years ago, I was still having this recurring dream, and he never aged. He was always, probably, he was older than he was when he died, but he was always in his mid-30s, just looked haggard, nothing like he normally looked. Right. So it's just funny how your brain has to process that loss, and you go through all sorts of different stages. Yeah, and not all at once, and sometimes all at once. Mm-hmm. Right. That's what, and it did not come with a manual. It's kind of like having a baby. You don't get instructions, but you certainly don't get instructions with this either. Right. You're talking about a dream. A friend of mine, she's 38 now, her dad died when she was 6, and she said that she would have dreams that he was a spy, and he was watching her, that she always felt protected because he was watching her. Yeah. It just, you have to think that those loves aren't gone. Right. They're just waiting. They're just waiting. That's absolutely right. Well, let's go to commercial break. Hang on the line with me. And we'll come back and talk a little bit more about after this point, where you are now, and the different things we talked about. There was an incident in the bathroom. There was one time on the floor. Just different times when the grief comes back and how you coped with it. So we'll be back in just a few minutes. Keep it right here on 92.1 Talk Radio. You're on The Naked Truth with Alicia New. Welcome back once again. You are live and on the air right here on 92.1 Talk Radio with Alicia New. Glad to have you back. We have had some incredible conversations so far. Looking forward to more as we continue through the hour. Just a few minutes left. But you are here on 92.1 Talk Radio on The Naked Truth with Alicia New, which is sponsored by Wells Fargo and McLean Funeral Services. Today we have been studying. We have been talking about grief. Oh, good grief. And the stages of grief. And we're currently talking to a brave and strong young woman, even though I know she doesn't feel like it sometimes, Jenni, about the loss of her husband. And one of the things that struck me about Jenni's story is that there were so many things going on behind the scenes to help bring her to a place of understanding and healing. I think whenever we're going through something and we feel like we're all alone, we need to realize that there's a lot more going on behind the scenes than we realize. But something really amazing happened with your son that we talked about during all of this. And this was after your husband's death, when you were going through the grieving process. Tell me about that day that you were talking about in your home last night. We have prayed over Jacob since we knew we were pregnant. I prayed that he would be everything that he needed to grow to be a successful man, including compassion. And it's hard to show compassion at 2-3 years old, but one night I was looking for something, and I found myself on the floor in our bedroom where Ron had been that morning after the paramedics came. And I laid on the floor, and I was looking up, and I thought, this is not scary. He did not open his eyes, but if he had, this is not a scary place. Mm-hmm. And in thinking back, I got very emotional, and I kind of crawled over to the dresser, and I leaned up against the dresser. And we explained to Jacob, or I explained to Jacob the day it happened, that Daddy had to go live with Jesus, that his heart was broken here on earth. He had to go live with Jesus. I didn't know how else to explain it to a 3-year-old. Right. How can you? Yeah. Right.
So, but he was fully understanding of that, seemingly. He accepted it. He never asked, I want Daddy. I miss Daddy. You know, he would say that.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, I crawled over to the dresser, and I was crying, and I was leaning up against the dresser, and he came in, and he said, Mommy, what's wrong? And I said, well, honey, I'm just sad right now. I miss Daddy. And he said, well, just a minute. And he ran and got his little Mickey Mouse chair, and he put it against the dresser, and he climbed into the chair and glided on top of the dresser. And I said, baby, what are you doing? And he said, Mommy, I'm going to climb to heaven, and I'm going to get Daddy for you. Daddy makes you so happy, and you're so sad him not here.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I'm talking like him. I kind of mock him just a little bit. But, you know, and I sat there, and I took him down, and I just held him. And I was extremely emotional. And I was still sad, but at the same moment, I was so thankful that my child has compassion.
Mm-hmm.
He knew he did not want to see me upset. He knew that his daddy would make me happy.
Mm-hmm.
And then even after I spoke with you last night, he was sitting in my lap, and he took my wedding ring off, and I still wear it.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, Mommy, what's this? And I said, well, honey, that's the ring that shows that Mommy loves Daddy and Daddy loves Mommy. And he said, I'll wear it. And I said, well, okay, you put it on your finger and you wear it for a minute. And he said, Mommy, I want a ring. And I said, well, okay, when you're bigger, you'll have one. He said, no, Mommy, a ring that shows Daddy loves me.
Oh.
Yeah, and again, you know, they kind of hit you like a ton of bricks.
Yeah, right. Mm-hmm.
But at the same moment, Ron left me the best gift of life I've ever gotten.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the best gift of love. That 3-year-old is teaching me faith.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
You know?
Yeah. And you were telling me too one of the things last night. You remember the story that you told me about when you were at school and it just hit you that day? You know, you don't have to tell all the details that we talked about last night. But if you can tell that story, that to me really spoke to the randomness of the denial that happens, you know, occasionally where you just go, no, this can't be what happened.
Yeah. I was out of work for about 2 weeks, you know, the week that it happened, and then the next week, and a couple of days the next. But anyway, I work at a school here in Cairo, Southside, and I'll give it a shout out because the most compassionate, wonderful people work here. But anyway, I came back, you know, and everybody was real supportive. I think they had instructions not to look at me if I was upset or anyway.
Don't make eye contact with her.
Yeah, exactly. You know, she may break.
Right.
But anyway, so I'm standing up. I teach kindergarten, and we were doing the calendar, and I said, well, okay, today's Tuesday. Tomorrow's going to be Wednesday. And I don't even remember if these were the right days or not, but tomorrow's Wednesday. The next day's Thursday. And it just, all of a sudden, it kind of hit me. The world's going on. There are going to be days after this one and after this one. And I remember just crumbling. And the lady that works with me, she saw me. She saw my face. She jumped right up, took over. And I came to the bathroom. And I went into the restroom. And I had Kleenex in one hand and toilet tissue. And I truly just looked. I didn't know what to do. I needed to wipe my face. And I looked in the mirror at myself, and I thought, who is that? You know, I am not a weepy, sappy person, but I truly am broken. You know, and it kind of was that day that I thought, and that was the day I had been afraid of. That was the day it broke me. It was a Thursday. I can tell you now, it was a Thursday. Yeah. It broke me. And every Thursday since has been hard. And I go to a therapist once a week.
Which is wise. Very wise.
Yeah, well, you know what? I thought it was only for weak people until I started to go.
No.
But anyway, Thursdays were really bad. And there was no significance to Thursdays, I thought. You know, he passed on a Tuesday. The funeral was on a Friday. But she helped me to realize that Thursdays are hard because that was the day I was able to see him. They had to do an autopsy, of course. And that Thursday was the day that I saw him. So Thursdays are kind of rough. Right. You know, still are.
And here we are. I'm just making it worse.
No, you know what? And that's the thing. I was going to say that, too. If someone you love or anyone is going through a loss like this, you have, if you're their friend, just be there for them. Right. You know, don't judge them. And I have wonderful friends, you know, but it's just, talking about it is making it easier.
Yeah,
it does,
and it's hard. I think it's hard for people on the other side to look at it. You know what I mean? Because it triggers all sorts of fear in our own lives. I don't think it has anything to do with you. You know what I mean? Like we were talking about last night, that it's hard for your friends to see you changing because this is going to change you. You're still going to be you in the core, But this is going to teach you. You're going to have a different depth now, you know what I mean, to your life that you didn't have before. But it's very difficult to watch sometimes for people who love you and care about you. Right. And I can remember during my time too that up until the funeral, everybody was great and they were everywhere, but then everybody went away. And it was so alone after that time. It's important to carry it on, you know what I mean, to be there for that person, let them vent or, you know, make wrong, you know, inappropriate jokes or do whatever it is they need to do to work through their grief in a way that helps them heal.
Right. And it is, you know, and living in small communities or big cities, you know, your friends are your friends. And it's hard to see a friend go through something like this.
Absolutely.
I can only imagine my friends having to watch this.
Yeah.
You know, it's not easy. If you have time, I told you about the Seven Bridges Road. That was Ron's favorite song. And Jacob, last weekend, we went out to a little dinner, and we walked outside, and the sky was beautiful. And, you know, if you've ever heard Seven Bridges Road, the very first line is, there are stars in the southern sky. Well, Jacob walked down, and he said, Mommy, look at those stars. Daddy put them there for us to see. He literally thinks his daddy hung the moon and put the stars in the sky. And it hit me, the first line of that song, you know, there are stars in the southern sky. And that was significant to me. The little things mean a lot. Don't ever downplay little things. Right.
And those things can be very healing. And I think I commented too on that you always wonder when kids come up with stuff like that if they know something we don't know. You know what I mean? Their minds are still so uncorrupted. It's still so clear, I think, when it comes to things like that. You wonder, I wonder if he knows something we don't know.
I know it. And I drill him now. I ask questions.
Oh, yeah, don't we? You know, I think that's why we relate to each other, because I sure enough ask questions.
Oh, yeah, I ask him last night.
Right. All right. We've got just a few more minutes. I just want to thank you again, Jenni, for coming on and sharing your story. I'm sure that it's helping more people than you have any idea. And one of the reasons I'm doing this show is because I want my pain to not just be a scar in my life. I want it to be something that can be a stepping stone and a tool for somebody else when they go through it. And that's, I think, exactly what you're doing today by sharing your story. So thank you so much for calling in. And I'm sure we'll be in touch on Facebook and wherever else in the future.
Well, I have enjoyed it. And I do hope I helped someone, just keep praying. That's all you can do.
Yeah, we will be. So, all right, great. Well, thank you so much. I'll let you get back to teaching kindergarten now, since I snuck you away from your class. Talk to you later.
No problem. Thanks a lot.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.